Yeah, well,
spring.
I noticed in your FAQ you specifically referenced Tesla.
Mhm.
Is it just Tesla owners, or can this apply to people with the little Fiat 500e or the Ford Fusion electric car? Obviously, the Leaf is the most popular electric car
Yep.
out there. So, does it apply also to those people, or is it just Tesla at this point?
No, so Tesla was our first. Tesla was the first car that we integrated with, and since then we've been steadily integrating with as many of these kind of car manufacturers as possible. So Fiat, for instance, Leaf. We also integrate with EVSE level 2 chargers. So if you
Okay.
have a Wi-Fi controllable level 2 charger, we can also enroll the car through those devices.
Okay, so the obvious question here is that how do you prevent people from hacking the system and obviously getting in and doing whatever kind of mischief they are
Yep,
intent on doing? What
absolutely.
safeguards do you have?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So our team is actually comprised of so our engineering team is comprised of engineers that have built utility grade systems from the security layer and all the way up. And I'm not on the technical side, so I won't be able to give the nitty gritty in terms of how we secure that data.
Right.
But our team has a combined probably 40 plus years building out these utility grade secure environments.
Okay, let's talk about scalability now because that's
Sure.
obviously with any startup, that's the next question a VC will ask you, and
Oh yeah.
we want to talk about where you got your funds here in just a minute. But so how scalable is this? I noticed that pretty much you're working with the major utilities in California.
Mhm.
Is a smart meter required for this, or do could you decide I'm going to launch in Kansas or Illinois or wherever?
Yeah, so that's another great question. So smart meters are required.
Okay.
The reason being is that the way that we measure a user's participation is we take a look at what their. So let's say there was an event that occurs on Monday at 5 p.m. So what we do is we look at the past 10 weekdays,
Right.
the past 10 weekdays at 5 p.m., and we average out what their average consumption was over that 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. period. If that user's consumption during that event is lower than that average, so they decreased from that average, that counts as an event participation.
Okay.
And so obviously, in order to get that level of data, a smart meter is required. Right now, we are working on some other kind of initiatives where we might be able to use sub-meters. Sub-meters kind of behind the primary meter that we might be able to supplement
Right.
if a user doesn't have a smart meter.
Yeah.
But for now, that is the requirement.
Okay, so we know that those are pretty widespread in California. What other
Yep.
states are in the process of installing smart meters that you might look at
Yeah.
beyond the state of
Yeah.
California?
Yeah. So smart meter, I would don't. This is off the top of my head. I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate, but I believe the smart meter penetration across the U.S. right now is around 40%.
Okay.
It might be a little bit lower than that. But we're fully confident that within the next 5 years or so, we hear smart meter deployments, scale of tens of millions of meters deploying across states, every month. I think that one of the markets that's particularly interesting. Texas also has a pretty widespread penetration of smart meters, a pretty very progressive energy market in and of itself. So that seems like an interesting kind of next
So that would
next area of growth.
so it sounds like me that's to me at least that would probably be your next potential market that you would look at exploring. But I'm
It's just
guessing
what
you
it's trying.
probably got plenty of business right there that you can do in California.
Absolutely.
What would be just, I'm an average homeowner. Let's say I've got a Nissan Leaf. I've got a SUV as my backup car. I live in a 1,800 square foot home, air conditioned. What might I expect in the way of, if I participate in this program, in the way of remuneration?
Oh, good. Actually, I have a great kind of case in point. So one of her users, she is an i3, a BMW i3
Right.
driver.
Right.
She actually just had a cash out of $298 over the past 10 months.
Oh, okay.
She was participating in some other programs. So we obviously incentivize if you build your team, but. That's probably at the high end of what most users should expect. We usually quote maybe if you have an electric car, if you have a device connected, it's around like $200 per year for
Okay.
participating.
All right.
And the financial incentive, especially for the EV community, is really just kind of the gravy on top. What we find is that a lot of the EV community, they get excited about Unconnects. From number one, it's just it's pretty cool just knowing that your car is responding to kind of real time grid conditions and kind of reducing their environmental footprint. But
Right. Okay. Cool. So we answered that. Oh, we will talk about. Okay. So you're in California. I gather must be what up in the Bay Area somewhere.
yes, we're based in
Oh,
San Francisco.
okay. So you've got doors you can knock on up on Sand Hill Road
Mhm.
and other places where VCs are known. So how'd you guys get your funding?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we initially went through a program called 500 Startups. It's a startup accelerator based out of San Francisco and Mountain View, where they take kind of promising tech startups, give them a little bit of seed funding, and really help from a kind of as a growth catalyst. So we've been working with a lot of the investors that came in through that program, where we're able to kind of raise some additional funds from people that are involved within that community. So,
Okay. All right. So you want to share how much you've raised at this point, or is that still private?
yet undisclosed so far.
Undisclosed. Well, let's talk. I mean, one of the issues you have a lot of people. It sounds to me that this works great if I live in a standalone home, by itself. But if I live in a condominium or I live in an apartment, I may pay for my individual electricity bill, or it may just be wrapped up into my monthly rent. What kind of provisions are there for people that do live in these sort of multifamily housing situations? Can they apply this, or what are the?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're in an apartment, if it's a condominium, the only requirement is that you have a PG&E, an SCE, or SDG&E, a utility account.
Okay.
So as long as you have your own personal utility account, the kind of structure of the housing that doesn't factor into it.
Okay. Walk me through here quickly. How's the sign up process work? How long does that take, and what kind of information do I need?
Sure, it's pretty simple. So it's connect to your email address. So that's what we use to send you the alerts. And then what is your utility credential? So utility username, utility password. And that connection is what communicates to the utility. I authorize Ohmconnect to take a look at my smart meter data, so they can analyze and compensate me for this event participation.
Okay. How big is the team right now that you guys have?
So we're a team of six.
Six people. Okay.
Yeah, so we're six people. We have a number of engineering and also kind of regulatory positions that we recently hired.
Okay. So you're comfortable with your growth rate at this point?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the really exciting thing is that there's a huge demand for this type of product, and I think that's really evident through the organic growth rate. We just see a ton of kind of organic word of mouth, virality behind the product. So I think that's why, at least from my perspective, I'm so optimistic and
Okay.
excited
Well,
about it.
all right. Well, great. Well, look, thank you for taking the time to tell us a little bit about that. I know that
Sure.
if people have more questions, you've got a very thorough, I might add, FAQ on the website that'll probably
Cover all
answer
the
just
bases.
about everybody else's questions, which is why I was curious about, maybe looking at the startup aspect of this thing.
Mhm.
obviously because it's an interesting story. So, look, Curtis, thank you so much, and best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.